Okay, this video is going to discuss the basics of a cell membrane. So a cell membrane is made up of a phospholipid bilayer. Okay, a phospholipid bilayer. So bi means two, and you guys can see we have 1, 2 layers. And then these are our phospholipids. If you remember from the last unit, we drew lipids kind of like a jellyfish. Phospholipids are similar, but they're only going to have 2 fatty acid tails. So that's how we're going to remember it for our purposes anyways. So this is a phospholipid bilayer. An entire cell membrane. Now this is going to go all the way around the cell. I just didn't draw that because that's going to take me forever to draw. So we're just going to look at a piece of the cell membrane. So we already said cell membrane is made up of phospholipid bilayer, right? And you can see if we take a look at one phospholipid, so just the head and these 2 tails, this head right here, this is what we call hydrophilic. So hydro means water, and philic means like or love. So the heads, they love water, and that's just going to make sense because most of your body, it's made up of a lot of water. Outside of your cells you have water, and inside your cells there's going to be a lot of water. Okay, these tails on the other hand, if you remember from last unit, these are the fatty acid tails. They do not like water, so they are hydrophobic. And you can remember that if you have a phobia of something, you're scared of something. So these are water fearing. All right, the other word we need to associate with the tails is that they are non-polar. Now we're going to get into what that means later, but for right now I just need you to remember that it is non-polar. And the heads are going to be the opposite of that. The heads are polar. So far we have a cell membrane. It's made up of a phospholipid bilayer. We have polar hydrophilic heads and non-polar hydrophobic tails. All right, there's some other information that's really important when we talk about the cell membrane. So, cell membrane is used to maintain homeostasis. So it helps to maintain homeostasis. Okay, homeostasis is just being stable. So like your body temperature, you know, you don't want to be too hot or too cold. You want to just keep that perfect balance right in the middle. Your hormone levels, you know, everything needs to be balanced within your body, and so the cell membrane just helps to keep that balance, keep that homeostasis. Okay, the cell membrane also is selectively permeable. Selectively permeable. This means that it is going to select what can go in and out of that cell. So not everything can just go in or out whenever it feels like it. Okay, the cell membrane is very selective. So it is selectively permeable. So far we've said it's made up of a phospholipid bilayer. Each phospholipid is made up of hydrophilic polar heads and hydrophobic nonpolar tails. The cell membrane is used to maintain homeostasis. It is selectively permeable. And I would say if it's not the most important organelle, I guess you could argue that. But its job is very, very important. So it controls what enters and exits the cell. Okay, the cell membrane is going to control what can enter and exit the cell. So, like we just said, it's selectively permeable, so that will help you remember its job. And that pretty much covers the basics of the cell membrane. Later on, we are going to talk about how there are proteins that are kind of stuck in our cell membrane. So these proteins, they may run all the way across. We're going to talk more detail about those. So this would be a protein. We'll see that in the next video. There's also these things called carbohydrate chains, and they just kind of stick out of the cell, kind of funny looking. I'll write this down. This is a carbohydrate chain. And this is going to be used for cell-to-cell recognition. So these carbohydrate chains are used for cell-to-cell recognition. So you can kind of think of it like an antenna sticking out to help the cells recognize each other.